Today we are talking about, my lesson plan is 7 Days Battle and the Battle of Antietam. This is going to be for an 8th grade U.S. history class. And just a little bit of a lesson introduction. So the setting, I imagine myself teaching this is a general education classroom or a co-teaching classroom, which would also be in the general education classroom with students that are on IEPs and students that are not on IEPs. So an example of some of the students, I imagine having students with reading disabilities, spelling disabilities. I imagine I'll have students with mathematical disabilities, and lots of other disabilities that will be on IEPs, as well as average students, gifted students, students that have ADD, ADHD, students with mild intellectual disabilities, and more. So I imagine this lesson will work in a variety of classrooms, and I think that's what makes it a good lesson. A little bit about the topic today. This lesson is about the 7 Days Battle and the Battle of Antietam, and this is day 7 and 8 of a unit over the United States Civil War. And so the major content today, we'll be talking about the two battles, what happened in the battles, how many people died in the battles, who won the battles, and how that affected the Civil War in general, and then how these battles are going to play out for the rest of the Civil War and what impact that's going to have. And then lastly, we're going to talk about, this is a turning point of the war because the war is moving north, which is important, and it makes this lesson plan important. Hello class, today we're going to be talking about the 7 Days Battle and Battle of Antietam, continuing on in our lessons about the Civil War. But to start today, why don't you guys come on up and you can use this pen and write your names right here, that way I have attendance for today. Okay, so now that we have attendance, we're going to start today with a time management skills. I've been noticing that we've been having trouble coming up with assignments and how long they should be taking, how long we should be taking our time. So we're going to go through a small outline that I found that should help us with time management. So basically for time management, we have this outline and we have 4 spots for assignments. So this is the assignment that we'll be doing tomorrow. It's the Battle of Antietam Journal, so I already put that on there. And then you guys are going to pick three assignments from other classes. And so you can put your geometry homework, your science project, and something else. So that's the first column. The second column, you're going to put how long do I think this assignment is going to take me. I would estimate that the Antietam Journal is going to take about 30 to 45 minutes. So you can put 30 to 45 minutes there, and then for your science project you could put an hour, and so on down the column. And then the last column you're going to do after you've actually done the assignment. So you're going to go through, you're going to finish all these assignments, you're going to make sure to keep an eye on the time while you're doing them, and then you're going to write down how long it took you there. So the Battle of Antietam, we said it was going to take 45 minutes, and it actually took you an hour. So you're going to write down an hour, and then next time you're going to know, okay, if it's a writing assignment, I might need to take longer. So an example of how your completed page should look is shown here. So we said that it might take me about 30 minutes, but say it only took you 20 minutes. So you know, next time when I'm time managing, I don't actually need to have 30 minutes planned for that assignment. But your geometry, you only accounted for 15 minutes of homework, but it actually took you 30. So next time you might need to know, I struggle to do my geometry homework, I need to account more time for doing that homework. So, like I said, this is how your completed assignment page should look. I'll put this online for you guys to see, and then we'll give it a week. And you guys should take time, fill this out, and then bring it back and turn it into me, and we'll talk about your time management skills and what we need to do next. Okay, so for this lesson plan, there are some prerequisite skills, and there's also some prerequisite content that the students will need in order to be successful in doing the assignments and the work necessary. So some prerequisite skills that the students will need, they're going to need basic reading and spelling skills. There's going to be some articles that I give them. We're going to be reading out of the textbook in the peer reading groups, so they're going to need to know at least how to read close to an 8th grade level. And then they're also going to need spelling skills because I'm having write journals, and they're having to go through and use those spelling skills to write it. They're also going to need, like I said, those grammar and writing skills. While it does vary because it's tiered content, they're going to need to know how to do a basic writing outline and how to actually write a small paragraph for their journals. And then they're going to need to understand how to comprehend the reading. The articles aren't hard, the textbook shouldn't be too difficult, but Luckily, I have some questions in the peer reading that they should be able to comprehend together and get to the bottom of what they need to know. They're going to need basic auditory skills, and they're also going to need basic discussion skills. So we're going to go through and we're going to talk as a class about some of the content that we are covering. So they're going to need to be able to speak or have some way of communication with the class, and they're going to need to know the basic discussion skills needed. And lastly, they are going to need some basic drawing skills. The lowest difficulty of the assignment is actually going to have to draw a soldier from the Battle of Antietam, so they will need those skills there. Some prerequisite content, they're going to need to know about Battle of Fort Sumter and the border states. So they need to know that the Battle of Fort Sumter was the beginning of the Civil War. It was the very first battle, and that's what started the Civil War in a sense. And they're also going to need to know about the border states, because in these battles we are moving north, so we need to understand the border states and their importance in this lesson. We're going to need to know the war strategy of the North and the South. So it's obviously changing now that the South is moving into the North. So we need to know why that's changing. And then we're going to be talking about the Battle of Bull Run and life as a soldier. So these soldiers are living in these camps, and we need to know what that's like for them, because that's going to have an impact on the battles as well as the Battle of Bull Run and how that ended. And then lastly, for the first day, we're going to need to know about the Battle of Shiloh. We need to know what happened there and why it was important in terms of the Civil War. The last two are going to be for day 2. So I'm going to give out information on the 7 Days Battle and Battle of Antietam on day 1. They're going to need to know this information on day 2 so that they can accomplish the journal assignment that I give them. And then lastly, they're going to need to have a basic understanding of the journal articles that I gave them for their journal writing. Now we're going to talk about the main parts of the lesson plan. We're going to do an overview of day 1 and day 2 and what we're going to be doing on those days. So on day 1, we're going to begin with the time management launch that I talked about earlier in the video, and then we're going to go into a direct instruction of the 7 Days Battle. So we're going to have a small lecture about the major points of the battle, how many people died in the battle, and then we're going to talk about who actually won the 7 Days Battle so that they have a better understanding, and notes will be given beforehand to the students that need them. Once we've discussed the 7 Days Battle, we're going to have a class discussion, and the discussion is going to be completely surrounding the question, why is the Civil War moving into the North? Why would General Lee, who's winning in the South, want to take the battle to the North? And we're going to get to the bottom of that as a class. Once this is over, we are going to split into our peer reading groups. And the way I have this set up is there's some groups that are students on IEPs and students that aren't, but there's also groups that are students on IEPs as well as other students on IEPs in the peer reading groups. So in this, we're going to read the section in the textbook over the Battle of Antietam, and then I'm going to hand out the articles over the Battle of Antietam from online, and they're going to peer read these together. And I have created comprehension questions for the articles from online, and they'll be going through those together as well. And they're going to be working through these articles so they have a better understanding of what actually happened at the Battle of Antietam. Once they have completed this comprehension, they will be ready to do the journal articles for day 2. So the last thing of day 1 is the test, study, test, evidence-based strategy technique that we started doing at the beginning of the unit. We began with a list of 15 vocabulary words, and it was basically a spelling test. So we test at the beginning, we let them study the words that they did not know, and then we'll be testing again here. So the students that need to take the test, study, test technique will come over to one side of the room and we'll take the test. We'll see what vocabulary words they know, and then we'll build another vocabulary list off of what they do not know still. The students that do not need to take the test, study, test, they will be creating an outline for the journal that we'll be writing on day 2. So they won't be watching the test, study, test, they'll be doing their own thing, and they'll be given instruction on what to do from there. Now we're going to do a basic overview of what day 2 is going to look like in the lesson plan. So we're going to begin the lesson plan by doing a review of the information from day 1, as well as necessary Civil War review that they will need in order to adequately write these Civil War journal articles. Once we have gone through the review, I will pass out instructions to the class about what they will be doing for their journal. I have created a tiered activity or a tiered assessment into 3 groups. I have the hardest difficulty, the average difficulty, and the lowest difficulty for students so that they can all be addressed. The content is the same, but There's extra content with some of the other students that really isn't necessary for the test but is more challenging for them. And then the length of the journal varies and other opportunities for them to show that they can do harder difficulties. And they will use the two sources that I gave them yesterday in day one, and the harder difficulty they'll be required to find more sources, as well as the average difficulty will be required to find one extra source that they need to pull in to their journal articles. So let's talk about group one, the lowest difficulty. Basically, they're going to be writing half a page journal article as either a Confederate soldier or a Union soldier. And they're going to talk about the major content, where the battle took place, who won the battle, how many people died in the battle, how many were wounded, and why it ended. And this is content that's already been given to them, but they still have to find by themselves. Now, what's different for them is the next half of the page will be used to draw a picture of the actual soldier. So they get to pick a soldier from the Battle of Antietam. They're going to be drawing that picture of a soldier that took part in the Battle of Antietam. Group 2, this is the average student difficulty, so this is going to be a little bit harder, but this is going to be the group that most students are going to fall in for this assignment. So it's going to be the same basic principle. They're going to be writing as either a Confederate or Union soldier. They're going to talk about the main content, where did the battle take place, the loss and the victory of the battle, what impact did that have, how many soldiers died, who won. They're going to need to hit on that basic content, but what's different is I've added some other content. So I want them to talk about the strategy of the battle a little bit. I want them to talk about what happened to this specific general, General McClellan, and I also want them to talk about why they think the North won. Also, a little bit different, theirs is going to need to be a full page. It's not going to be able to be half a page, it needs to be longer. I'm going to grade it a little bit harder for content, spelling, and the material, and also they're going to be required to find one other source that they need to use and cite in their journal. Lastly, this is group 3. This is the highest difficulty. This is going to be for the above average students and the gifted students that will be in this classroom. So, like I said, the beginning is pretty much the exact same. They're going to be talking about the major content of the battle that the others will be talking about, but there are quite a few differences for group 3 that is the highest difficulty. The main difference is that they're going to be writing 2 letters. They're going to be writing one letter as a Confederate soldier and one letter as a Union soldier. So that's going to be different. They're going to have to write from different perspectives and use different content as it varies for each side. They're going to be hitting on the main areas that 2 also did, but they're also going to be talking about what McClellan did after the battle, what do they think will happen next, a little bit more about McClellan here, and then they're going to be required to find 2 other sources, as well as using the sources that I gave them in class, cite them within the paper, and then they're also going to be graded much harder on the grammar and the spelling and things like that. So this group is going to be significantly harder than the other groups. It's going to be the same content. Everyone's going to learn the same, but it's going to be a lot more hard. So I just wanted to make a small note here about the evidence-based strategies that were used in this lesson plan. So the first is the time management. That is an evidence-based strategy. That's one of the study skills that we use, and that's going to be on page 478 of our textbook for class. And then we also use the test study test technique here, which is from 328, and that's going to be for students that have spelling disabilities or struggle with spelling. So we use both of those. I also believe that peer reading is a evidence-based strategy, but it doesn't have as big of an effect on the lesson plan here. And technology used in this lesson plan. So we use the smartboard technology throughout the lesson. The students take attendance on the smartboard. We're going through information on the smartboard and we're interacting with it. So that's part of the technology. And then the students are going to need computers for research. So the lowest difficulty won't need computers. I've given them that, but the average difficulty and the highest difficulty will need computers because they're required to find other sources. So they're going to have to interact with the internet. Obviously, I'm going to have a safe search engine for them to go onto and find more information, and I'll most likely give them 10 sources that they should go and pick from just to make it easier. But they will have to interact with the computers to make sure that their journal articles are more complete.